Let's visit the year 3052 when the clans invaded the Inner Sphere. I will be using this clan support star for this video. It comes with some Alpha Strike pilot cards and also this linebacker mech, the Night Gear, the Arctic Cheetah, the Battle Cobra, and the Black Lantern. These will be my canvases to paint up the 5 iconic clans. The first thing I want to do is prime everything white. You can use an aerosol primer, or in this case I'm using an airbrush primer. Just make sure to prime the models all the way around from all sides up and down with this white primer. Make sure it's coated all the way through. Next, I'm going to splash dash it with about 70% dark tone and 30% water. I apply this mixture liberally all over the mechs, and this is basically a pre-wash treatment, which is really good for something like mechs because it also acts as panel lining. It gives it some pre-shadowing and also makes the panel lines really pop like you can see here. I next switched to broadsword silver speed paint, and this is a common color that I put on all my mechs. I basically put it on all the weapons just to highlight where they are, and it draws a point of interest to the model. At this point, I'm going to start focusing on the color schemes of each individual clan that was involved in the clan invasion, starting with Clan Wolf. Clan Wolf was a leading force in the clan invasion of the Inner Sphere, marked by strategic brilliance and adaptability under Khan Ulrich Kerensky. Advancing through the Lyrian Commonwealth, they achieved major victories using a balanced approach of honor and pragmatism. At the pivotal Battle of Duquesne, Clan Wolf stood out as one of only 2 clans to earn a partial victory, securing its reputation as the most effective invader. Their success, however, sparked tensions with other rigid clans, setting the stage for future internal conflict and shaping the clan's evolving identity and political path. For this clan, I'm going to be using the Beta Galaxy color scheme, which is one of the more popular color schemes for Clan Wolf. This is basically a combination of 2 different shades of brown, followed by some detailing colors. And for my canvas, I'm going to be using the linebacker model. My first speed paint color is Pallid Bone, and I'm going to be applying this onto the entire top surface of the mech. All the arms, the upper torso, all that is going to get Pallid Bone. I am just careful to stay away from the broadsword silver areas that I'd painted before, but otherwise I paint the entire top portion of the mech with this light brown color. For the lower half of the mech, I use a darker brown called Darkwood Speed Paint. This is a nice, deep, rich, dark brown, and it works really well on this model. I really like the contrasting browns of the light on top and the dark below. It gives it a very distinctive look and makes Clan Wolf a very attractive faction to paint. I also use this Darkwood Speed Paint on certain areas on the top of the mech, like I'm showing here on the missile bay doors and other panels, just to kind of give it a little bit of a contrast and things to draw your eyes to. Next, I'm going to be using Magic Blue Speed Paint, and this is going to go on the glass of the cockpit of the mech, which I'm showing here on the linebacker. And then I follow up with some Grim Black Speed Paint. This part is somewhat optional, but I like painting all the joints, the elbows, shoulder sockets, and so on with this black. It gives it a little bit of distinction from the rest of the armor plates and shows where the joints of the mechs are. I also like putting Grim Black on all the vents. Anything that looks like vents on the mech, I paint those black, but of course this is optional as well. Next, I'm going to freehand in a small logo for Clan Wolf. Of course, you can use a water decal for this if you really want it, but I use pure red acrylic paint and I apply it to a section of the mech that I can put a logo on. And then I paint an inverted flat triangle like this, which forms the basis for the shape of the logo. I then come back with some matte black acrylic paint, and then I paint the outline of the rectangle followed by the shape of the wolf's head. This is a very small area and this is a really small logo, so it is going to be an abbreviation. If you want something that's crisper, you'll probably want to buy decals, but those are expensive. So I'll kind of leave it up to you. Clan Jade Falcon was a key participant in the clan invasion of the Inner Sphere, known for its strict adherence to traditional clan ideals and aggressive tactics. Led by Khan Ellis Kritchell, and Sakan Van de Van Chistu, they advanced rapidly through the Lyrian Commonwealth, favoring direct overwhelming force over flexibility. At the Battle of Tukayet, their rigid doctrine led to a disastrous defeat at the hands of Comstar, halting their advance towards Terra. Their failure contrasted sharply with Clan Wolf's success, intensifying rivalries and reinforcing Jade Falcon's resolve to uphold clan supremacy through unwavering strength and orthodoxy. They have many galaxies, but I picked the Delta Galaxy, which had a lot of green with shades of yellow, which to me kind of epitomizes the Jade Falcon scheme. I use several speed paints here. I always start with the ones that are a little bit lighter and then going to the darker speed paints later, and then these last two colors I use for detailing. And for the Jade Falcons, I'm going to be using this Night Gear mech, followed by my lightest color, which is Battleship Gray. This is a bluish and light gray, and I'm going to use this as a small accent color on very select panels on the mech. I put it close to the cockpit area, and I also kind of highlight all the peripheries of the weapons with it, and then I just add splotches of it very sparingly all over the mech. With this color scheme, only about 10 to 15% of the mech's surface area will get this light gray color. I next switch to maize yellow, and this is going to go on larger portions of the panel. Before, when I used the Battleship Gray, I kind of kept the stripes fairly small, the panels fairly small, but with this color, in order to achieve this color scheme, I apply it onto larger panels and larger areas. For instance, the entire lower leg of this mech gets yellow, and then I apply it onto larger panels all around the mech like this. This is going to constitute about 20% of the mech's surface area. Magic Blue is one of my favorite canopy glass colors, and I apply it to this area of the Night Gear. Now switching to the main color for the mech, green. For this, I'm going to be using Orc Skin Speed Paint. This is a very vibrant and bright green, and I really like it on this particular galaxy for the Jade Falcons. I'm going to be applying this all over the rest of the mech that didn't get silver or gray or yellow or blue. Basically fill in all the rest of the gaps. If it looks white, paint it green. I then switched to Grim Black Speed Paint, and like the previous mech, I put this on all the joints. It just kind of gives it a little bit of differentiation with the rest of the colors and breaks the colors up a little bit. Now this is how I abbreviate the Clan Jade Falcon logo. It requires quite a few colors, including 2 different shades of green, as I'm showing here. I start with Talisman Teal acrylic paint, and I paint an upright rectangle right here on the biggest part of the mech that I can find. I then follow up with some pure red acrylic paint, and I paint a red border around that green rectangle. Followed by matte white, I paint the offset O that you see on the picture in the lower left hand corner within the green rectangle that I had painted before, making sure to leave some green on the right hand side. And follow up with Wild Green Fanatic paint, and I'm going to be painting the Falcon, or at least the silhouette of the Falcon as seen in the picture. And then I use Aegis Aqua to paint the blade of the sword underneath the Falcon. And finish off the handle of the sword with some matte black. Now this looks a little bit abbreviated, but again, these are very small logos on very small mechs, and it fits the bill. Clan Ghost Bear played a major role in the clan invasion of the Inner Sphere, advancing through the Draconis Combine with methodical precision and overwhelming force. Known for their strong sense of unity and honor, they emphasized combined arms tactics and discipline. During the pivotal Battle of Tukayet, Ghost Bear forces performed well initially, but were ultimately halted by Comstar, resulting in a partial victory. Though they failed to reach Terra, their performance earned respect among the clans. Their measured approach and cohesive leadership helped solidify their position as one of the most stable and respected clans. This Rogue Galaxy color scheme truly matches what I think of when I think Ghost Bears, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. This is a pretty simple color scheme with only these 3 colors right here. Starting with Maize Yellow, I used this very sparingly, mainly as stripes and accent spots on the mech. I put it in like little bands, for instance, right around here, around the missile launchers. And then also I basically use it as a denotation color for all the weapon systems. Wherever there's a weapon system, I put a little bit of yellow, and it really helps accentuate the mech. I next use plasmatic bolt, and this goes on the glass of the cockpit. My next color is magic blue speed paint, but I want it to be a little bit lighter, so I apply about 50-50 mix of speed paint medium. This allows the blue to look a lot lighter like I'm showing here. In this scheme, it doesn't call for a very dark shade of blue, and this lighter, almost baby blue, suits the scheme a lot better. Paint these accent pieces on about 30 to 40% of the mech, leaving the rest of it white. As usual, I use some grim black speed paint to paint all the joints and so on this mech. And I also put some of the black in the vents on the back. Just to add a little bit more pizzazz to the model, his hands also get painted black. For the Ghost Bears logo, I use these three colors. I start with matte black acrylic paint, and I picked this area of the torso right here, which on this mech is the biggest area I could find. And then using the matte black, I paint a circle on this area, as big of a circle as I can, using my detailing brush. Next, I use Aegis Aqua acrylic paint, and I paint basically an asterisk consisting of 3 straight intersecting lines that form 6 legs as shown in the logo. And I add some uniform gray right in the center in the shape of a bear's head to finish off the logo. Clan Smoke Jaguar was among the most aggressive and brutal of the invading clans during the assault on the Inner Sphere. Led by Khan Lincoln Osis, they advanced rapidly through the Draconis Combine, relying on raw power, intimidation, and unwavering adherence to clan supremacy. At the Battle of Tukayet, their inflexible tactics and overconfidence led to a disastrous defeat by Comstar forces, severely damaging their reputation. Unlike more adaptable clans, Smoke Jaguar's refusal to evolve contributed to their long-term decline. Their failure at Tukayet marked the turning point that foreshadowed their eventual destruction in the years ahead. For this faction, I used the Jaguar's Den scheme, which has a really nice dark appearance with some streaks of light brown. And these are all the speed paints that I use for the Smoke Jaguars. And I will use this Battle Cobra mech as my canvas. I start with Battleship Gray, which is that light gray color with a tinge of blue in it, and this goes on as an accent color on a few panels on the mech. I use it on the pads of its feet, its joints, and its head. Switching to palette bone speed paint, I applied this where I want the lines of light brown to be. This don't have to be perfect because later when you apply the darker colors, you can truly refine the lines. So just place them roughly where you want these accented brown lines to go. Do this sparingly on only about 10 to 15% of the mech's surface. I again switched to magic blue speed paint to paint the glass of the cockpit. I next switched to Cloudburst Blue. This is a very dark but also very interesting blue. It's not gray, it's not black. It's like a dark gray with very strong hints of blue in it, and it works really well on this scheme. I place it all over the mech on any areas that are white that I did not paint palette bone, silver, or battleship gray in the earlier steps. This gives the entire mech a very dark yet darkish blue appearance, and it's very attractive. And since this color is darker than the palette bone, you can actually use it to truly hone in the size and the look of the stripes on this mech. And like before, I go back with some Grim Black Speed Paint as an optional step to darken all the joints and also any of the vents that I see on the mech. I use just two colors for this tiny Smoke Jaguar logo. I start with ultramarine blue and I apply it onto this shin right here, which is the biggest area on this very tiny mech. This is a small mech compared to the other ones. And then I kind of create all these little stripes coming out of the center like you see on the logo. And then I use uniform gray Fanatic paint and I freehand in the silhouette of the Jaguar right in the middle. Clan Nova Cat participated in the clan invasion of the Inner Sphere as part of the offensive against the Draconis Combine. Known for their mysticism and reliance on visions to guide their decision-making, they balance strong battlefield performance with unorthodox strategic thinking. During the Battle of Tukayyid, Nova Cat forces were initially successful but suffered a crushing defeat at overextending themselves, leading to heavy losses. The failure deeply impacted their faith in the invasion. Disillusioned, Nova Cat later broke with clan orthodoxy, aligning with the Inner Sphere, a shift that dramatically altered their future and the identity among the clans. Of all the Nova Cat galaxies, this Alpha Galaxy scheme is truly one that resonates this clan the most for me, so I went ahead and used this. It is a very attractive and eye-catching color scheme that only requires these 4 speed paint colors right here. I start with Plasmatic Bolt and I apply it onto all the cockpit glass. In the case of this Black Lantern mech, it does have some areas where there are struts on the canopy that I have to be very careful and work around. The best part about speed paints is that they're very low viscosity and very easily settle into the crevices. Next, I use High Lord Blue, which is a very nice, handsome, and bright blue. And this I'm going to put on the entire center upper torso of this mech. I try not to get into any of the arms, I just keep it to the center torso area. And to give it a little bit more accent, I left the cockpit white just by not painting it, and that white provides a very nice contrast against the rest of the blue around it. I next switch to Grim Black Speed Paint, and this goes on the lower section of the mech. Now while I'm doing this, I'm going to pick a few areas that I do not want to put black paint on. I want to leave it white as accent pieces. Since they are already white from your priming and washing earlier, you do not have to apply any more white paint on this. Just don't paint it. And whatever areas you paint black around it, it will look black. Otherwise, whatever you leave white, like all these joints like I'm showing you here, and a few other panels like I'm showing here, if you leave those white, they provide a very nice contrast look against the blue and the black around them. This scheme also calls for the arms to be black, but I do leave certain areas of it white, again as accents. To add a little bit of extra pizzazz to the model, I use some blood red speed paint and I apply these very handsome stripes and accents all over the model. Don't put too much of it, a little bit goes a long way. Some added stripes to the weapon systems and also to the joints really makes this model look really handsome. For the Nova Cat logo, I use just these 4 colors. Again, this is somewhat abbreviated and the logos are very small, so you don't have to put every single color on it. I start with ultramarine blue and paint a big blue circle on the area that I want to apply this logo, for instance on this shin right here. I follow up with some demonic yellow acrylic paint and I paint some sunburst stripes coming out of the center of the circle like this. I then grab some pure red acrylic paint and I apply smaller streaks in between the yellow streaks to make it look like a sunburst effect. I finish off the logo with some matte black. I paint the silhouette of the cat's head right in the middle of the circle. We're approaching the final steps. I use some black primer and I just painted around the periphery of the base just to clean it up. I then use some dark wood speed paint and I paint the top of the bases with this color. This is just to give it an appearance of dirt or soil. And then I move on to matte white acrylic paint, and with a very small detailing brush, I freehand in the name of all the mechs in front of the base on the forward facing portion of the base. I don't know about you, but Battletech has so many mechs that even I have trouble identifying them. So I go ahead and just apply the name of the mechs at the bottom of all the bases so it's easier to identify them on the tabletop. And while you're doing this, it pays to have small handwriting like I do, and you're able to fit more words on the base as I'm showing here. Of course, you can abbreviate things and make it kind of like a short form so it fits, but you can plan a little bit and maybe practice it on a piece of paper before you try putting it on the base. But I really like doing this. This adds flavor to the models, and again, it helps me with identification. Lastly, I use some white glue like Elmer's glue and I apply it randomly onto the base in splotches, and then I put some flocking material like this to spruce it up. Protect your work with one layer of gloss varnish followed by one layer of matte varnish, and you're all set. Here is the linebacker painted up as Clan Wolf, the Night Gear as Jade Falcon, the Arctic Cheetah Ghost Bear, the Battle Cobra painted up as a smoked Jaguar clan mech, and finally the Black Lantern painted up in Clan Nova Cat colors. Thank you for joining me in this video, and I hope that this was helpful for you to paint up your entire clan army and be ready to put them on the tabletop, ready to bring the Starleague back to the embattled inner sphere. I hope you have as much fun painting up your clan mechs as I did while making this video. Thank you very much for joining me, and until the next time, happy hobbying and happy wargaming.